Hello, everyone. This is Kara Carter. Welcome to the Mentoring Matters webinar. I know we had a lot of people registered, so I want to give it a few minutes just to give everyone a chance to get in and get settled. So I'll be quiet for the next couple of minutes while we're waiting for everyone to join. All right, well, I think maybe it's time to get going. So again, hello and welcome on air to Jumpstart. Thanks everyone for participating. We're really excited to bring you this webinar today. Just so that everyone can kind of frame up in their mind what we're planning. I know we've got an hour on the schedule. I am planning to speak for about 45 minutes, and then I'll save 15 minutes at the end for questions. You should see along the left-hand side of your screen a bubble with a question mark in it. So if you've got questions between now and then, go ahead and submit them to me, and I'll just hold them until the Q&A period to answer. Hopefully, I will have answered your questions by the time we get there, okay? So without further ado, thanks very much. Let's talk at a high level about what we're going to cover today. So we will be talking about the importance of program objectives specific to mentoring programs and how that really drives everything else. Obviously, in a list of 1 through 4, it's why I listed it first. It's the most important thing. Then we'll discuss the importance of defining and measuring success. Largely, that ends up being based on your program objectives. So these things naturally build one after the other. I'll cover the critical elements of a mentoring program, the people, the process, and the tools. And then finally, we'll discuss some of the components that make a program really great. Let me tell you a little bit about Jumpstart and about myself. Jumpstart's mission is to strengthen the economic vitality of Northeast Ohio and the United States by helping communities realize their entrepreneurial potential. My name's Kara Carter. I'm a partner here in the solutions practice, and I have been leading an effort to offer the technology platforms that we use here at Jumpstart to mentoring programs around the country. This is going to sound a little bit like a hair club for men ad, but while I work here at Jumpstart, I'm also a mentor in our program. In fact, I joined the mentoring program nearly a year before joining the Jumpstart team. It's been both a thrill and an honor for me to be able to work with some very smart and savvy entrepreneurs. So we've developed technology in arenas as varied as thermal imaging applications, biomimicry, and pharmacy risk management technology. So this has been really fun for me. In addition to being fun, I've had the opportunity to use the tools and practices of the program here at Jumpstart, and I'm really excited to be able to share some of those with you today. So first and foremost, let's talk about really stating the case for mentoring. Entrepreneurs seem to often need a few common things. They need money and they need advice, but not necessarily in that order. In a startup, there isn't a lot of money early on, so if the advice is needed, there's often not the budget to hire expensive consultants. Often entrepreneurs then seek mentors. Entrepreneurs may not know what help they need, and using the services of a mentor, the entrepreneur can often realize the things that they need that they might not often or might not naturally have come to on their own. When an entrepreneur starts a company, there's plenty of advice to go around, advice from funders, from peers, from friends and family, but the quality and the nature of that advice may or may not help the business itself. Entrepreneurs are also often very smart people, but nobody can know it all. Mentors offer a skill set from an outside perspective that's complementary to the entrepreneur skill set. And so the next bullet here you see, I think many people are familiar with the metaphor, the velvet glove. I was listening to an NPR story last week and I heard this term, the velvet brick, which I thought was even more illustrative. And, you know, this is essentially the mentor's role oftentimes is to give some really direct and advice that's hard to hear, but given with kindness and in good spirit. So entrepreneurs often really need this, although it may or may not be all that pleasant. Lastly, and you'll hear me talk about this a lot today, entrepreneurs need access to networks, funders, suppliers, and manufacturers, resources of all kinds, and mentors can often open those doors. This is a relationship that here at Jumpstart we really believe needs to be a very trust-based and close relationship, and I'll say a little bit more about that. In fact, I will come back to that point over and over throughout our time today. So let me talk a little bit about how we built our program here at Jumpstart. So all throughout Jumpstart's history, we have provided advisory services to entrepreneurs in the program. Early on, that came in the form of Jumpstart employees. So we had entrepreneurs in residence and venture partners. But as we grew, we needed to add some volunteer mentoring in order to scale our operations. We looked around the country at many different programs and several noteworthy best-in-class programs. In particular, I've listed on the page here. So we visited, talked with them, learned from them. So what you'll see here, we visited and participated in training at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology's Venture Mentoring Service program. We spent some time in San Diego at the Springboard program. And this one, I just love to say out loud, we traveled to Mars up in Toronto, Canada, and visited the folks running the Discovery District project. Essentially, what we were trying to do is talk with all of them and learn from them. It was really important that drew from this expertise, but more importantly, that served our mission and our companies and our regions well. So over time, we have evolved the program. So early on, we realized that entrepreneurs in the area needed support beyond funding. They needed advice and they needed to build networks. At the same time, it was important to us that we build a culture of entrepreneurship. While we were building the program to help entrepreneurs, this, building the culture in Northeast Ohio really became very important to us, and how mindful we were in terms of who we brought into the program and how and why had as much to do with the people and the attributes that they exhibited. That became as important as fulfilling our mission of being a high-tech, high-growth venture development organization. So over time, we were very fortunate to partner with the generous Burton D. Morgan Foundation to build the program. And in partnering with them, that really took on a relationship that went beyond them just funding our program, but they really became stakeholders in the program itself. And we collectively settled on objectives for the program and our outcome metrics. We experimented with different models. So we've experimented with one-on-one mentoring, with group mentoring. You'll hear me talk later about ad hoc mentoring, where we use very specific skill set individuals to help with very specific needs. As I mentioned earlier, we have played around with both paid versus volunteer mentors. But as the program evolved, we really sort of settled on added value, driving milestones, and looking at metrics. Ultimately, we have added some assessments, and all these are things that I'll talk about in a little bit here. But where we've landed today was really that the result of the evolution and our learning. So certainly we learned that milestones and metrics are the true north that we pursue, but we also know a lot more about what success means to entrepreneurs and mentors. So for entrepreneurs, it may mean an exit, or it may mean pulling the plug. For mentors, it often means that the progress that they helped the entrepreneur achieve helps the mentor feel like they're giving back, making meaningful contributions. And that's often very, very rewarding to them. And it's one of the things that keeps them in the program. So again, to kind of put an underline on this, where we have landed here at Jumpstart today, and I apologize for that, our program has evolved into an outcomes-based program with clear, measurable goals. We've experimented with mentoring in many forms, but one of the underpinnings is really holding the entrepreneurs accountable for progress, and the emphasis on leveraging support tools specific to each of these roles that really help enable the program. The mentors in our program provide diverse perspectives and experiences, which makes what they bring to the table very rich and rewarding to the entrepreneurs. And then lastly, and this is something that might be somewhat counterintuitive, but we place a lot of emphasis on the filtering and pairing of the entrepreneurs based on a set of criteria that we both formally and informally use to make sure that those pairings are really sort of magic. So I want to pause here really briefly and conduct a quick poll. And the reason I wanted to do this rather than just sitting and listening sort of in the abstract, what I would really like each of you to be thinking about as we spend our time here today is listen to what I'm saying and try and put it back in respect to your individual program, and ask yourself questions all along the way about whether or not these things are really resonating with you and how they fit with your program. So at a high level, to start out, I just am asking you to take a quick poll, and you'll see again along the left side bar there is there's a little image of a graph, and if you click on that, you'll be able to answer the poll. But if you're currently, or if you're considering running a mentoring program, what is your primary objective? Is it to foster a culture of entrepreneurship? Are you aiming to guide companies to successful exits? Are you looking to help entrepreneurs make progress towards goals? Or, do you just not want to be left out? Everybody's doing it. So take a minute to answer that poll if you would. So here, as I said before, this is sort of where we've landed here at Jumpstart. First, we got very clear on the value that we were driving, our value driving framework, and it's really the foundation. It drives everything else. It's what guides who we bring into the program and how. But obviously, the other critical components are the entrepreneurs and the mentors. Where those three things intersect, that's really the magic in the program. That's the glue that holds it all together, and those are really in the mentoring sessions themselves. So what I'd like to do for the next few minutes is to break those things down from a fundamental standpoint. So first, let's talk about the entrepreneurs, the first critical component here. And Jumpstart, as I mentioned, offers mentoring to entrepreneurs who are affiliated with our Jumpstart programs, but also that are affiliated with our partner organizations. Here in Northeast Ohio, we partner with 17 other organizations. So that means sometimes that the entrepreneurs applying for the mentoring program might not be completely aligned with our core mission. So it's really important to the mentoring program that we ensure that we're bringing in good mentoring candidates. That criteria might be different from what someone's looking at when they're assessing a good candidate for investing. So to us, great candidates fall or fit these three criteria. First of all, It's important that they're very coachable. And so I'm going to kind of go back and forth here in the roles between entrepreneur and mentor. So, the mentors are in the program really to feel like they're making meaningful contributions to the lives and the businesses that they are shepherding through. And one thing that's very frustrating is if they're offering, taking time out of their busy day, offering valuable advice, and the entrepreneur isn't hearing it. I think another result of the opposite of being coachable, if someone's really resisting the coaching and advice that they're giving, chances are they're not going to hit their milestones. So in order to make it successful all around, it's very, very important that the entrepreneurs be coachable. Entrepreneurs come into the program wanting something. They want advice. They want access to the networks. They want advice. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're open to advice and can act on it. Next, the success of the program really relies on achieving the goals, and it's part of our core program that those entrepreneurs are motivated themselves. This is really a pull, not a push. So as we set the milestones and identify the goals and tasks aligned with them, it's really important that it's the entrepreneur that's driving that progress. And then lastly, and I think this probably goes without saying, but it's really important that the entrepreneurs in the program have really great ideas. So again, getting back to the core guiding principle, in order to make progress on these milestones, you've got to be working with someone who's coachable, who's motivated to want to move the ball down the field, and that you're working on good ideas, that they have vetted their business model, and the mentors are really working with them to take those great ideas and shape them into something really special. So let's talk for a moment about the role of the mentors. First of all, the mentor, I want you to think about the mentor a little bit differently than the way you would think of a manager. So a mentor is really satisfying the role or serving in the role of being a coach. This is someone that needs to be able to influence the activity of others, but who really doesn't have any sort of leverage or command and control. So mentors in the program often, and again, this might be somewhat counterintuitive, somebody coming out of corporate America might not be a great candidate as a mentor because it's a little bit of a different way of getting action out of people. So what we're really doing when we are assessing people who want to be part of the mentoring pool, we're looking to see if they have the personality and the guiding principles of our mission. So again, first and foremost, but then we look at their skill set. And it's really a combined skill set that we're looking for. We're not only looking for hard skills like experience with startups, a sales focus, marketing, finance, legal, industry sector specifics, but we're also looking for soft skills. We're looking for people who can give that advice in a spirit of empathy, with candor and kindness. It's also important, often a successful entrepreneur, they had the way that they did it. And a successful mentor is someone who can help another entrepreneur achieve the same success, but not necessarily in the same manner that they did. Someone who's open-minded and is really kind of keeping the eye on the prize and allowing that the entrepreneur needs to find their own way. Naturally, you want to bring in mentors who achieve your mission. Here at Jumpstart, that means that the mentors who will drive the entrepreneur to those milestones and make course corrections if necessary, and then again, give critical advice if necessary. So we mentioned earlier at BRIC, and it's so important that the mentors in the program exhibit some of these soft skills, because at some point it might be necessary for that mentor to tell the entrepreneur that their baby is ugly. And I'm going to move right off this slide because it's so disturbing. But here's where the magic of this pairing really comes into play. So now you've got your entrepreneurs, you've got some motivated individuals who are coachable and talented, and they've got great ideas. You've searched your networks and you've developed your mentor pool, people who are going to help you satisfy your mission, give the critical advice, have some, hardcore, hard skills to offer. But the magic really happens in this pairing, and what is critical is that a relationship of trust be formed. So it's very important that a social bond is formed between these two people. So here at Jumpstart, we have events, networking events, and social connections where people can get to know one another as people, as individuals, so that you recognize that in addition to helping this person think through the financials and think through the markets and so on and so forth, but you're really taking care of a person who has perhaps put everything on the line to test out this really great idea. Again, early on in the selection process, there's a social meeting that we really encourage that takes place so that the two have an opportunity to build that relationship, the trust that everything will be founded upon. Remember also, the mentor isn't getting paid. The mentors in our program don't have any skin in the game. They're not allowed to invest in these companies. That's not the banker, it's not the lawyer. And so that gives them the opportunity to offer very critical advice, but with kindness and in the spirit of helping this entrepreneur achieve their dreams. So this combination of skill and expertise and personal chemistry is very important. So in the Venn diagram, we talked about the three critical components: the mission of the program, the entrepreneurs, and the mentors. And where it really all comes together is in the sessions. So I like to think of the sessions, you don't want all of your activity to happen in the sessions. A lot of time has elapsed since the last time you met. The session is really a timeout. It's a time for the mentor and the entrepreneur to get together. It's really important that they be held on a regular basis and that they be solid. It's very important that there are agendas. We're here to work. We're here to not just give an update, but make decisions. And that's where a lot of the critical milestones are agreed upon. And it gives the entrepreneur an opportunity to seek advice, ask questions, and hopefully get some resolutions to those things and make the plan for what's going to happen between now and the next session. Here at Jumpstart, it's important to us that the entrepreneur really drives the agenda, because at the end of the day, it's that person's business. It's their idea. And again, that's why it's so important that the entrepreneurs are motivated. So one of the things that we have done over time is we've spent a lot of time developing tools, not just techniques, but tools to provide structure to help make these sessions really productive and really valuable. Again, if it's just a meeting where you come together and give an update, that often doesn't really have the structure necessary to drive towards specific goals. So the tools are really designed to keep everybody's eyes on the prize. So let me take a couple minutes to just share with you some of the specific tools that we use. So I think many of you are probably familiar with the work of Steve Blank and Bob Dorff and their book, The Startup Owner's Manual. Essentially, these are two serial entrepreneurs who began designing business tools specific to startups. And essentially, their realization was that startups are not merely small versions of large companies, and that traditional tools just simply weren't working. few entrepreneurs were sticking to and executing on the whole business plan. And so they developed a business model canvas. Essentially, this is a way of condensing all the critical information into a single page. It really forces the entrepreneur to boil down the idea into a concise one-pager. And we use this as a starting point for the entrepreneur and mentor teams. It gives the mentors a quick overview of what the idea is, how fleshed out this concept is, and it underscores the pieces that are weak. So based on the first meeting and reviewing the business model canvas, this really helps the team prioritize all that could be done and then develop a short list of what should be tackled first. This forms the basis of the first round of milestones. Another valuable tool that we have developed at Jumpstart is our assessment tool. And again, I'll come back to the core principle of driving toward milestones and making progress. So we use this tool to capture and agree upon the milestones with targeted completion dates. A good mentoring program will address accomplishment of goals, but we'll also check in on progress. And that's where we can look at behavior and whether the entrepreneur is making progress over time. So you see, and I know this image might be a little bit small, but along the left, that's where we're really looking at the value-driving milestones. And you'll note that there are the milestones, we drill it down into tasks, and then along with each task and each milestone, we target completion dates. So again, if you think back to when I discussed the sessions, that gives the mentor and the entrepreneurs incremental hurdles that they can check in on a regular basis to ensure that progress is being made. Along the right-hand side, this is really more of a focus on ensuring that the entrepreneur is making progress. So a good mentoring program will address accomplishment of goals, but also check in on progress. And we want to look at behavior and whether the entrepreneur is getting better over time. So it would be, really tempting and very easy to get caught up in the day-to-day of getting things done. But a good entrepreneur will also be looking down the horizon and being prepared for what comes next. So what we do with our assessment tool is we assess the entrepreneur early on and then periodically over the course of their mentoring to see if progress is being made. Now, you notice that we've got red, yellow, green. We're not really expecting that the entrepreneurs come in the door all greens. That would be unrealistic. But we're really looking to see, are they improving and are they making progress over time? As we were growing the Burton D. Morgan program at Jumpstart, it was becoming harder and harder to scale the operations. So as I mentioned earlier, adding volunteer mentors helped, but there was a building administrative burden in order to keep the program moving forward. So being entrepreneurial and technology biased ourselves, we developed a Salesforce-based software platform to alleviate a lot of the administrative burden so that we could focus on the important aspects of the program, and that being helping entrepreneurs. This software also helps us track important metrics. And so, for example, for our program, we track metrics that are in line with what we report to our funders. So we're looking at sessions that are scheduled, how many sessions happened every month. We're looking at and reporting on how much time the mentors have volunteered. We're looking at the number of milestones that are achieved. And so we've got an administrative dashboard on our mentoring platform that allows us to monitor all of those metrics to help drive forward and to ensure success, and more importantly, to demonstrate progress to our very generous funders. So I want to take a minute and show you a brief video that will highlight, and I'll show you some imagery from the mentoring platform, and I thought it'd be more interesting than if I just spoke to it.
Welcome to the Jumpstart Mentoring Portal. The following video will demonstrate how to use this simple application to manage your mentoring activities. A simple login brings you to the Entrepreneur homepage. Entrepreneurs see only their information, whereas lead mentors can view each client they are coaching. Click the tile that represents either your company or, for mentors, one of the companies you are advising. If you are a lead mentor and wish to schedule a session, you may also do so from this view. The majority of actions that can be completed on the homepage are done so by the lead mentor. Mentors and entrepreneurs are primarily viewers of the information entered by the lead mentor. Simple actions such as creating sessions, adding tasks and milestones, and sharing agendas and documents can easily be completed by clicking on the associated buttons and following the on-screen instructions. Each session created sends an alert to all attendees. Each task and milestone due date will also create an alert. Alerts are sent to the application as well as to your email. The alert indicator will let you know if any are available. Assistance is available to you through the application. Simply click the Submit Requests link at the top of the page. Upon click, both public requests and private requests can be submitted. Public requests are sent to the entire mentoring network, allowing you to quickly get assistance from your peers. Private requests are sent to the program administrator. Finally, a help link is available, which provides a PDF printout of this video's instructions. Thank you for using our new application. We anticipate adding more features as we learn from both mentors and entrepreneurs.
All right, well, I hope you enjoyed that video. I've got the answer to our poll question. So 60% of you said that your program was designed to help entrepreneurs make progress toward goals. 40% of you said that it was focused on fostering a culture of entrepreneurship. So I guess that's not surprising to me. And I think as we talked earlier about the evolution of our program here, that was something that evolved over time with us. So those of you who are in the fostering a culture of entrepreneurship, you might find yourself migrating toward more of a goals and outcomes model, but certainly fostering a culture of entrepreneurship, it's so important to just really get the ball rolling. So I just want to spend a moment here sharing with you some feedback from some entrepreneurs that have come through our system and the impact that our program has had. So you'll see the quotes here, and I've abbreviated their names, and I haven't shared the company names. Both of these programs are still, both of these companies are still in our program. So I wanted to maintain their confidentiality. But I'll say that Lauren, for example, is the CEO of a company, and she recently shared the winding up and down road that she's been through, that she's essentially come from nothing to almost throwing in the towel, and then finally to making money. And she demonstrated all throughout this, she demonstrated to her mentors her grit. And what we're really seeing now is what the mentoring program has meant to her on a personal level. Even as her company went through these multiple challenges and pivots, the support and involvement of her mentors really helped her achieve her current success. So she's one of our favorite stories. Next, you see a quote here from Karen. Karen ran a company with 4 biomedical engineers who developed their technology, and they secured the IP, but they didn't know how to raise the funds to take the product to market. So they entered the mentoring program. One of the actions that their mentors took was to connect them with a leading wound construction surgeon and as a mentor, and that person connected them to a doctor. Ultimately, they were connected to the National Institute of Health. The NIH met with the company's team and became both an advisory board member and an investor. So in this instance, the mentors really assisted them throughout all these discussions and negotiations, helped them raise capital, which rapidly accelerated the process of bringing this technology to the aid of millions. So again, a couple of different examples and some testimonials here from some of our mentors about how the program had a positive impact, not only on their companies, but this is the really rewarding part, help them achieve their dreams and really had an impact on their lives. So the takeaways here, yes, there are lots of books and approaches to mentoring, and as many programs evolve over time. If you Google mentoring program, for example, you'll get 14 million hits appear within 0.6 of a second. If you Google entrepreneurial mentor programs, you'll find 1.4 million hits. So our approach works really well for us. We took a lot of best practices and things that we learned, we experimented, and just, sort of kept trying and trying until we got to a place that felt really good and was working for our entrepreneurs and was really working in our ecosystem here. We've given you enough today to really think about and consider and evaluate your approach to mentoring. You could do great things with these concepts, but we're also here to help with training and support if you're looking for more help in implementing your own program. So what I would ask you, pardon me, is to assess your own program. Really ask yourself, is there clarity around the objectives and our program goals? Are we thinking critically about the entrepreneurs and the mentor characteristics that make our program successful? And do we have a perspective on other critical elements, such as building trust, providing tools to entrepreneurs, and having structured sessions, and the importance of achieving milestones? So I would end my remarks with a question: where are you in your journey of building your mentoring program? Are there areas that you're struggling with that you'd like some help on? Are you building? Are you in need of help scaling? And if you are, we would be happy to talk with you about your specific needs, understand the areas that you might want to take a look at Jumpstart's tools, some of our practices, and we'd be happy to have those conversations with you. So I am going to pause here. I haven't even looked at the clock. I don't know how I'm doing on time, but I want to open it up to questions if we have any. I'm going to scoot over and share the microphone with my colleague Christina, who's going to help me with the Q&A portion today. Hello, Christina.
Hi, Kara. Thank you. So I'm just looking at some of the questions that have been coming in right now. There is some interest in the assessment and software tool that you showed the video for. One of the questions here asks, or it's more of a statement, it'd be great to hear more about your project management software and how it's useful both to track goals and outcomes and to keep entrepreneurs and mentors on track. So can you just elaborate a little bit more on that online tool?
Yes, I'd be happy to. So the way our program has evolved, a lot of, we've held on to the guiding principles, which is really putting the milestones and making progress first and foremost. But a lot of how that was happening in the past was happening through emails and documentation that we were keeping offline. So we built a Salesforce-based application with some user interface front end so that it sort of shields you from getting into sort of the guts of Salesforce. But what this allows us to do is manage the sessions that I mentioned in this Salesforce tool. So each of the sessions that is attended by the mentor and the entrepreneur, those session notes are captured after the session with specific fields for milestones and tasks. We can document the milestones as they're created, assign tasks with completion, targeted completion dates, and then updates so that we track how the entrepreneur is progressing through this. One of the other features, and so some of this was covered in the video, but often in the mentoring sessions, we'll find that an entrepreneur has a side of what the mentor in the room is able to answer. And so we have the opportunity to ask the entire network. At this point, we've got I think the numbers I showed you earlier were from October, and it said we've got 98 mentors. I think we're up over 100 at this point. So we offer the opportunity for the entrepreneur to ask questions of the broader mentoring pool if there are specific things that they need help with. And the beauty of having everything in this one location means that no longer do we have to sift through emails and Word documents and, try and remember where those things were housed. We had, I think, experimented with keeping things in SharePoint, but by having it all available in this one location, both the program administrator, the entrepreneur, and the mentor have access to all that documentation at all times. The second thing that it allows us to do is it allows the administrator, as we are reporting back to our funders, the Burton D. Morgan Foundation, it allows them to pull reports and see where all of the entrepreneurs stand, and a quick status update. It allows us to pull those metrics from the administrative dashboard. So it really kind of puts everything at your fingertips.
Okay, and a related question is this tool something that we can purchase, or is it something that you share?
That's a great question. So right now the tool is in beta testing. We have a few programs that have enrolled in our beta program, and we will be conducting that again so that we can learn from those experiences. This is something that we've been using the tool here at Jumpstart since August of last year. And we're looking to get some more users in there so that we can make some refinements. It will be available for commercial subscription this spring. And I think, as I mentioned, it's Salesforce based. So there is a requirement that you have Salesforce licenses, which we've got some recommendations on how to work that with Salesforce. And then the Jumpstart piece of that application is a subscription model through us.
Okay, so let me see what other questions we have coming in here. Give me just a minute. Okay, so to change the subject a little bit, will you talk a little bit about the process of recruiting mentors?
Okay, that's a good one. I think, early on, our mentoring pool was largely people who had approached Jumpstart and wanted to get involved. Many of them were serial entrepreneurs, but over time, we have had folks that are involved from more of a skills perspective. So it became a lot of the requests and the activity going on in the mentoring program. We found an increasing need, for example, for people with marketing experience, people with sales experience, people with intellectual property experience, lawyers. And, that network, Bill Nemeth is the person who runs our program. He's got a large personal network, and he comes upon people all the time. So, a lot of it is word of mouth, people that we know, people that the mentoring population knows. Bill meets with all of them individually, which in a really, really large program might not exactly be scalable, but these are people that are personally vetted through Jumpstart personnel. I hope that answers the question. I'm not really sure what level of detail, but I can follow up. Do we have the ability to see who has asked this? Okay. So ultimately at the end, if there's follow-up, I can follow up with you, question asker.
Okay, so another question we have here is, this one's kind of interesting. Do you ever have people drop out of the program?
Yes, we do, as a matter of fact. So, and so by people, let me talk about both sides of the equation. So naturally, entrepreneurs would drop out of the program if A, they've had a successful exit. B, sometimes their idea or their company or their funding stalls and they have to go on hiatus. So they don't necessarily want to leave the program, but maybe they need to take a pause. So those are some of the ways that entrepreneurs leave the program. Mentors sometimes leave the program. I mean, we have a core set of individuals who've been part of the program for years and years and just, absolutely love it. So, I think with any program, it's going to ebb and flow over time. But again, one of the reasons that it's so great that we have our software where all of that knowledge and all of the documents are now housed is so that if we do unfortunately have a mentor who leaves, maybe they move out of the area, maybe life catches up with them and they don't have the volunteer time anymore, but we try and maintain a warm transfer then where we've got all of the materials and the history of the company and how it's evolved over time.
Okay, the next question. Are there common milestones that are useful for all entrepreneurs?
For all entrepreneurs. So what's going on in the back of my mind, I'm remembering that we've got 40% of our participants are running programs that are culture-based. And so let me speak specifically toward the programs that are more outcomes-based. So, I mean, naturally, with mentoring these companies, some of the recurring themes in terms of milestones. So often the mentors are coming to us and there may be some work that they have to do around shoring up their business model canvas. So they may or may not have done an exhaustive analysis of their market, or they may be working, for example, to secure the intellectual property. So those sort of big pivotal moments. So understanding your market to know if there is one, that's sort of a common milestone. Securing intellectual property. And then a lot of the milestones are often geared around securing funding. So many of the sources of funding that our entrepreneurs seek might have some stipulations around the release of those funds. And so those turn into natural milestones. Obviously, the entrepreneur is highly motivated to complete those tasks and achieve the milestones so that the funding is released.
Okay, so we have a couple more questions coming in here. Pardon me while I read a few of them. Another question is regarding logistics staff size. Did you have to increase staff size as the program grew?
Again, another great question. So I'm going to take the staffing question from a two-pronged approach. So first, we were using Jumpstart staff to offer advice to the entrepreneurs in the form of entrepreneurs in residence, sometimes called venture partners. So in order to grow the program, we knew that we couldn't continue to add paid mentors. And that's where we sort of took on a volunteer mentor model. On the administrative side, that is where, in order to really scale and grow the program, we really needed to develop this technology to alleviate that administrative burden. So and I'm trying to remember the statistics, but we have grown our mentor pool by, I can't remember, I had the data earlier, but I can't find it in my notes, but we were able to take our program to a much broader scale and help many more entrepreneurs by using this technology to alleviate the administrative burden. So we've got, I think I mentioned earlier, we've got a program director and a very small administrative staff of 2 people. And formerly they were scheduling all the mentoring sessions, managing the agendas, housing all of the documents, and now all of that administrative labor is really done in the mentoring application, freeing up those people to, tackle the outliers and really focus on the entrepreneurs.
Okay.
Yeah, we can take, do we have time for one more?
Yeah, we can do one more. I'm going to take this whole one, half of it.
Yeah, so I'm going to read this whole question. It's a little long. How do you deal with a mentor-entrepreneur pairing that's not working? And how do you know if there are problems or preempt them? What are some of the most common problems? One of the most common problems is this whole, and many of you may be familiar with the movie Groundhog Day, where you just feel like every session you show up and you're rehashing the same thing. And it's either the entrepreneur doesn't know what to do, and progress isn't being made. And so, that puts you in the situation where you've really got to have a tough conversation with that entrepreneur about what their goals and objectives are. So sometimes that gives us the opportunity to put that entrepreneur on hiatus. So I'll share one example from my experience. I was pretty early on mentoring a company, and the feedback that we kept giving this individual was that he was solely focused on developing his technology and not really focused on developing his sales pipeline. We were recommending that he, work with someone, consider hiring someone, or consider, taking some of the emphasis off of development and focusing it on really developing that sales pipeline. And there was a real strong resistance to that. I think we, for a time, put that person on hiatus so that he could really kind of take a step back from the technology that was being developed and focus more on what do I really think the market is for my product, and how can I go about really giving that the time and energy that it needs. We were able to kind of get back on track with that person, but it took one of those velvet brick conversations. How do you know if the relationship isn't working? Again, I'm going to refer back to the software that we use. The mentors are the ones that document the sessions, and they have the opportunity to document both progress and updates that should be available publicly. And then they also have the opportunity to document things that they want to hold private. And that is the mentor's opportunity to talk about an entrepreneur who's stalling, or any sort of, problems that might be showing up in that relationship. And in those instances, and they don't come up very often beyond the whole notion of stalling, but that is when we really then enlist the intervention of our program director to see what can we do to kind of hit the reset button with that entrepreneur and get things back on track. There was a lot in this question, and so I'm going to invite you, if you'd like to talk more with me about this, you can email me at kara.carter@jumpstartinc.org. And I think my contact information is going to come up at the very end. I put it up on the screen for everyone. Well, I know we're getting really close on our time. We only have a few minutes left. So I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. If you would like to spend some time talking with us about your program and how your program is doing, if there are things that perhaps you're unhappy with the results you're achieving, or you're having particular hurdles that you're finding difficult to overcome, we would invite you to call me, email me, and we would be happy to talk with you about whether or not there are tools or techniques or approaches that Jumpstart might have to share with you to help you. So thanks everyone for the time, and we hope to hear from you further on down the road. Thanks so much.